Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a 3 versus 3 on Lyakhavichy, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the 52nd Sicherungs. Been a very long time since I've done a gameplay commentary on the channel, so I thought, you know, what better time than the latest DLC to start bringing them back. And yes, I had a little bit of a break from making videos, probably at the worst time, but ultimately that's just for my mental health, just, you know, not trying to burn myself out too much. But here we are, with a gameplay on the 52nd Sicherungs, probably my favourite division of the new DLC. So the 52nd Sicherungs basically works like a pure infantry division in Phase A. It has a lot of disheartened troops, like Latvian troops, and then also has a lot of Lithuanian troops. So it's very, very cool. And then in Phase B and C, it kind of transitions into more of a traditional armoured playstyle with a lot of Panthers arriving on the field. So let's have a quick look at my composition. We're going to have orders always on for this game because that's just how it is in the replay these days. We got a Pak 36, a couple Pak 36s. With the range changes, they only have like 1,250 meter range, I think, or maybe even less than that, like 1,000. So I'm bringing a couple of those into the town to kind of hold the ground at close range. I've got the Feldjäger, one of my new favorite units, honestly. It's a unit of military police with MP44s and a G43 that's scoped. So some sniper action going on there. Got some Lithuanian snipers there. We've got some Latvian Hilfspolizei coming in. These are disheartened, so that's why the Feldjäger is there. I've got the Pak 36s unloading into these back gardens. A couple of MG42s there. On the left-hand side, I've got Pak 36. We've got an MG42, Pak 40, Panzervernichtungs, and all of these Lithuanian troops. The Tar Savanoriu. Probably completely butchered that pronunciation. But IL-2 is going to come in here and try and kill my MG42. Doesn't really do the job. That's an IL-2 with one of the light rocket payloads, so they don't really do too much damage to stuff in heavy cover. They're kind of okay for dealing with things in more open ground. Got some KM Flak-Truppen coming up. So you can see all sorts of different infantry at the start here. So we've got Hilfspolizei, we've got the Savanoriu, and the Flak-Truppen here. The Flak-Truppen are 15-man disheartened troops. And you can see here I'm just kind of slowly, I'll get to unloading them shortly, but they've got 14 Kar 98s and the MP28. These are like Raider trait units, which are pretty cool with the PPSH and the 10 labels. You can see the range on the Pak 36 is actually in fact 1,000 meter range. So yeah, you need to get them really close for them to be effective. But in this situation, it might be able to do some damage to the SU-122 if it gets some side armor shots in. One of my snipers goes down. These SU-122s right now are one of the strongest units, well, part of the strongest units in the game. So there's a lot of support weapons now that maintained 2,000 meter range, and it made them really strong. Things like the Grilla, the SU-152, the SU-122 in this case, the ISU-152. So I'm opting to bring in the Focke-Wulf 190 F8s here because I don't really have any other real way of dealing with this. I've got to try and pin it down and then kill it with the Pak 40. But the Panzervernichtung's there, gonna get spotted, gonna get killed off. Now it's my Pak 40's chance to strike. Gonna be using the APCR there to get the super accurate shots because it does have 55% accuracy instead of 45% accuracy. The anti-tank guns, Pak 40s, now have 1,750 meter range. That's not the case, same case for all AT guns, but this is too also one of the ones that has the 1,750 meter range. APCR shot is shorter, so in this case the APCR shot for the Pak 40 is 1,500. For the ZIS-2 it's only 1,000, I believe. So you've got to take all of this in mind now. It does make learning all of the units a lot, I guess, more time consuming. But I'm doing pretty well here, just like holding the ground in the town, just like piling in my reserve infantry. I do manage to kill off the SU-122 with a grenade from the Lithuanian troops there. So I'm making some decent ground. Like these squads in particular at 15 points are really good value right now. Because they can hold their own. The Raider trait keeps them hidden, and Yeah, they can get ambushes in like that quite easily. It's just because you have so much infantry everywhere that's really cheap. The flak truppen here, also 15-point squads. You've got the Let Hilfspolizei in Phase 8, 15 points. The Fallschirmjäger can also join you. Obviously, these aren't 15 points, if only. These are definitely more expensive, and rightly so. The FG42, G43, and MG34 combo can be pretty strong at the mid-range engagement, especially when you can use both the FG42s and the G43s at the same time on top of the machine gun. So that's like anywhere within 500 meter range, basically. And the SU-122 is actually kind of in an awkward position here for me right now. It does have like line of sight right down this road where I'm trying to reinforce all this infantry. So I'm going to be forced to kind of unload these early. I'm going to start giving them out orders, as you can see, to just kind of spread out, selecting them. Well, probably just selected all of them and then either press tab and then press Q to spread out the orders, or I selected them individually because of two different types of units here. So if I were to press tab whilst they're all selected, it would jump between the two groups. Either way, I get them to start spreading out. The SU-122 is going to have a hard time seeing these without recon, but it can see the vehicle, so that's why unloading them early like that is quite important. Meanwhile, on this left-hand side here, the Tar Savanoriu do manage to find there's this too. We take out some snipers there. I do have eyes on this 37 that's been brought up due to my Fokker Wolves. So we're starting to make some serious ground. I'm going to go in for the bombing strike onto the SU-122. Again, the stealth job has brought in the 37s to try and stop or potentially kill my Fokker Wolves, but he's going to need some more veterancy, more massive AA if he wants to really take these down, or an intercepting fighter or something that can maybe catch them on their way in. My MG42 here and the sniper do have eyes on this 37, so that's going to die pretty fast. MG42s do still have a 1,250 meter range, down from 1,500, but it's still pretty long and still a lot longer than a lot of units. I'm managing to get the better of some transports here due to the Fallschirmjäger. The Fallschirmjäger can rip through transports very fast, especially unarmoured transports. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, my Pak-36 did move forwards here. I turned off the AP shells, so it used the heat like grenade that it has. And basically, it's like a rocket almost that attaches onto the. It's like a rifle grenade, more like that attaches onto the end of the barrel. Really good for taking out armor targets at short range. It's kind of like having a Panzerschreck. It's a little RNG because it's only 30% accurate at 750 meter range, which is really bad. But the closer you get, the more accurate it becomes quite quickly, and especially with a little bit of veterancy on there, the 2-star veterancy, that does increase the accuracy of that unit. So I was able to take out the 122, get that out of the way. And I've just got my wall of infantry moving forward. So all infantry at the moment. You can see there's not a single tank on the field here. And we're managing to make some decent ground. But as soon as it comes into Phase B, I can start bringing in Panthers. And I've started bringing up some of my own AA here as well. Haven't got that unloaded yet. But we've got the Flak 36 on this side. Because, of course, my opponent is using the IL-2s. But thankfully, the ones with the 82mm light rockets that I already mentioned, those aren't really a good choice for the most part. But these are still doing really well. You can see that they deal with these like mid-range Thrauki squads very, very well indeed. I think at the moment for the Axis side, it's quite a sentiment at the moment that like obviously the MG42s are really strong. But because things on the Soviet side aren't that strong at the moment, like the DP machine guns, I think it's kind of unfair to use the MG42s in a lot of cases, but it just goes to show like how strong these rifles can be, like these Lebel rifles. And they're not any stronger than like any other rifle, like a Mosin or a Kar-98. But the thing that about rifle units is like in numbers, they can start to really add up some DPS, especially in large numbers. So like on large number squads in particular. So say I've got like 5 squads of Flak Truppen. For 15 points apiece. It's like a lot of DPS for the cost, and so that's something you can definitely take advantage of. And I've been quite pleasantly surprised with this division that it can deal quite well with Soviet infantry without the use of MG42s. So I'm managing to, like, obviously we captured this point because it starts on our side, but I'm contesting the town well. We have managed to press up onto this objective, and we've even got some of this objective as well, like some influence over that objective. The IL-2 tries to make a run into my Flak 36, and since it gets like pinned down, my Flak 36 like changes target, but I make sure to select my AA and right click on this IL-2 so that it finishes it off. You can see that it quickly changed though, and I might even be able to shoot this one down because it was heading straight towards the AA as well, but that one manages to get away. So the Pak 40 here, going to be able to take out one of the M4s. Going to be turning around this Pak 40 in the hope of getting a shot in there. But that Pak 40, well, didn't have line of sight. It's going to be firing at these Tharaki instead. But yeah, we're managing to win the infantry war in the right, slowly but surely. I've got another leader coming up to make these infantry better. One thing I would say that this division probably will struggle against for the most part is the use of, like, extensive use of, like, mortars, or just, like, off-map in the early game, or even just, like, a lot of bombers, maybe. Because they can't really, like, deal with it. You'd have to bring in a lot of, like, AA to deal with bombers early. The artillery, I can't really remember, like, much about the 52nd Sicherungs. It's not something they're particularly great at. But yeah, I mean, you could just bring in mortars, but you wouldn't be able to counter battery, you see. So, yeah. Anyway, Pak 40 has line of sight onto the MCHR there. I just managed to pick off the one on this side as well. Unfortunately, my opponent now, like, surrenders at this point in the game, but I didn't really want to show this game off because I wanted to, like, you know, show how well I did. You know, it's not really something I do. I wanted to show this game off because I thought it was a really interesting combination of, like, well, it really showed off how the deck works. So you've got, like, this really strong, like, infantry early game, and then, like, now we moved into phase B, I can actually bring up some Tiger, or some Panthers, sorry. And these Panthers are available in the Recon tab, and I think it's extremely important that you use them. These Panther Ds are what's going to help you hold the line against, like, an abundance of medium armor in the mid game, because things like these BA-10Ms are actually really difficult for the 52nd Sicherungs to deal with. M4s, if used correctly, can do a lot of damage to your infantry, just any tank really, like a T-34, like lots of T-34s pushing. So you got to make sure you have these, like, Pak 36s amongst your infantry, so that in cases like this, I can snipe it with the Pak 36. It managed to get a really nice shot in there and blow up the Sherman with it. So it's super important you have these Pak 36s with you. It used to be that you had the Pak 36s in your decks to, like, transport snipe from the 2,000 meter range. But these days, I think it's really important to have them close just to pick off half tracks, and also just, like, anything else that's, like, armored up to, like, medium tanks. So you see the BA-10Ms just, like, really cause my infantry to struggle, and in this case, because they've got recon, my Lithuanian infantry is not going to be able to get the AT grenade on them. Not easily anyway, and unless I manage to, like, house hop close to them or something like that. In this case, the Sapere are going to be unloading in my face from the AI there. Flak-truppen going to be engaging those, sponging a lot of damage, whilst my MG42 hits them from afar. Of course, the BA-10Ms are starting to shoot that now, so I'm going to be moving it back. Panthers moving up here. You see all of my Flak-truppen, they still have attack move orders forwards. It's constantly moving backwards and forwards as the BA-10M comes in. But yeah, I got the Panther D here on the left side of the river. I've got the Panther D on the right side of the river in the town. And the idea is just to clean out these BA-10Ms so that I can continue pushing. I think also during this game, Mickey dropped on the left-hand side. So it did become, like, one AI on both sides in the end, so it wasn't, like, completely unfair, which was, I guess, bad for Mickey, unfortunate on him. But in terms of, like, the game state, I think it really gave them a chance to get a push on in the center at some point, but I think I did end up starting to support that just to make sure that they didn't break through too much. So yeah, my Panther D is coming through here. It's going to be clearing up a lot of these vehicles. Took out the BA-10M on this side of the river. Oh, never mind, it's still there. Maybe I moved up something else, I can't remember. The Panther D, though, going to be engaging the T-34-85. Now, this is an interesting thing to talk about. The T-34-85s, if used correctly, can be very, very threatening to Panther Ds and very good value for money. for taking out Panther Ds, but you got to make sure you can get them close, maybe like within the 1,500 meter range mark. If you can do that with something like smoke, then you're going to be in a really good position to trade Panther Ds, and you're going to make like a Axis opponent back off because of that, 100%. Because they're not going to be wanting to trade like 100-point T-3485 for their 140 or 150 point Panthers. Like, that's just not something that people are going to want to do. So, especially since like AP or like penetrations can be a little bit RNG sometimes, you don't really want to take the risk in a lot of cases. You want to make sure that you can utilize your max range advantage with the Panthers to really get the better of your opponent. But you can see here, even with a Panther on the field, I'm still bringing in Pack 36s, and it is quite simply just help deal with light armored vehicles. So in this case, these are just fantastic for popping these BA-10Ms. They just are. So it's definitely something I would recommend at the moment. I've still got the Focke-Wulfs, of course, so they're going to be coming out and helping me bomb stuff. I did try and get the Legionnaire, the Latvian troops, to engage the BA-10M, but the BA-10M managed to get machine guns down on my troops really fast. And this was on the patch where like machine guns in vehicles were kind of still really broken, so things like BA-10Ms were actually super scary, like even more scary to a Flak-Truppen squad than they already were. So yeah, thankfully that's fixed now. Regardless, Lag 3 going to come in there, get some nice pinning onto these Lithuanian troops, and the AI is pushing back hard here. It's actually gone back to 13-13 across the board, as you can see, because Mickey's forces have kind of broken in the middle. This like Tiger suiciding, for example, is getting really close up here. So yeah, we are starting to lose some of the flags in the center. Our opponents have like kind of taken back this flag and so on. So it's starting to look a little bit wonky on the map. But I'm just going to continue to consolidate my position, because as long as I don't get pushed back too much, there's not really much of a chance of our opponents getting the initiative back, especially since I'm just having like the AI thrown at me, for example. We do have Orfui coming over here with his IL-2, just looking for the Panther D. Thankfully, I do have a decent AA net right now. I've got these two Flak 36s, and they're kind of also in range of the Tarvadas here, which is my Lithuanian leader unit. These Tarvadas actually are really cool. I think they can put down quite a decent chunk of damage at mid-range, and they also have the smoke grenades there. But yeah, in this case, I was having it give veterancy to the Pack 40, the Flak 36s, and I guess this Pack 36 or that's kind of in the wrong position there. Panther D just kind of waiting behind, just in case I need it for any tanky engagements. But I'm focusing on just cleaning out this town, so that I can then put pressure onto the train yard back here. And on this right side, things are quite spread out. My Feldjäger are still hanging back, but I'm going to move them forwards to support the disheartened troop and bring in some more so that I can also push the flag on the right side of the river. P3 there coming in for the Tiger. Oh, that was unlucky. I think the suppression from my Flak 36 there actually helped out quite a bit in making that miss. So yeah, here go the Feldjäger, sniping away. They look really cool, actually. I really like the look of like the Feldgendarmerie and the Feldjäger. Firing away. Really strong squads as well. You can see in this case, they have the 3-star veterancy because I've got the Legionnaire Führer next to them, and they come in at 2-star vet. So you can get some really good accurate shots out of this sniper, and that allows you to pick off squads very quickly. So we've got some Fallschirmjäger coming in here, going to reroute one of them to the left side of the river. Sorry about the little bit of lag there. Fallschirmjäger now moving into the forest. This is the other thing that's really nice about this division, is whilst you do have a lot of cheaper units like the Flak-Truppen and the Lithuanian forces, you still have like really chunky squads in the form of the Fallschirmjäger, which can just kind of create, they can be a massive like force modifier in these engagements where you're using a lot of like mediocre troops. When you see like a Fallschirmjäger arrive behind all of this rifle fire that's already going on, like they just demolish stuff because nothing's shooting at them, and so they maintain they just really maintain their accuracy because they're not being pinned by being under fire, because other things are sponging. And in this case, like these Fallschirmjäger in heavy cover, they've got the 2-star veterancy due to the Tarvadas again. Loads of infantry coming in here from Saxton. He's trying to reinforce his right-hand side, but kind of bumped into all of my infantry. Now my bombers are going to come in and do a lot of damage. E3s coming in to try and strafe and maybe tackle some of my Focke-Wulf 190s. The LA7 does get on the back of my Focke-Wulf there. That's exactly what you want to do to shoot those down. Intercept them mid-bombing strike so that you can catch them on the way out. If your opponent doesn't just like fly through, that is. But yeah, these PE3s, not a big fan. I definitely wouldn't recommend using these. They really, really struggle to shoot down enemy aircraft due to their lack of forward-facing guns. And they also have terrible ability to strafe ground targets as well for the same reasons. So just not really a good choice overall. They are quite resilient, but they're just more of an annoyance than anything else. They won't really take down an enemy fighter in a duel. Or here we go, ISU 152 slamming at max range. This is still a thing. These are awesome now. ISU 152 is like popping infantry squads from miles away. I think I definitely prefer the ISU the SU 152, which is just solely an anti-infantry. It's much cheaper. But the ISU 152 does have the AP shell, which can be, scary for the Panther, but unfortunately it lacks the accuracy. So I think in those positions it just gets itself killed more than anything. But we're now back to the 16 to 10, so the game's going back in our favour now, with us kind of securing these extra flags further up. It looks like Mickey's AI is kind of like pushing through the Pioneer. Yeah, I'm getting Pioneer going through the swamp. He's like, oh, no, maybe not. It's coming back the opposite direction as the aircraft comes in. But yeah, so we are now into Phase C, and that means Panther A's. So this division has 3 cards, well, I think it's even more than that. I think it's like 5 cards even, of Panther A's, but you can only bring them in Phase C. So now it's reached Phase C, I can finally bring them in. I can kind of have them duel things like the ISU 152 here, and the T-34-76s and KV-1Ss, and because I've already got tons of infantry on the field at the moment from my successful Phase A and B, I don't really need to invest in anything else, so it's just Panthers, 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 and more Panthers. This Panther is unfortunately burning. This is one of the recon ones that I already brought in. But on the right side, AI is going to be moving up quite close with that ISU 152, and that's going to be a potential shot for the Panzerfaust if it comes any closer. These Flak 36s, when they get a bit of veterancy on them, they can be really brutal at shooting down aircraft, so definitely something you're going to want to do yourselves. You can see I'm actively moving back my leader to give these guys veterancy so that I can get that shot in. So, yeah. Definitely worth doing there. My Legionnaire going to find the 45 mil there. This is the Latvian troops again. And we got a track broken shot onto the ISU 152. Unfortunately, when the tracks are broken, it can't turn. So it can't move and fire back. It's just got to sit there and wait to die. The last APCR shot from the PaK-40 gets the job done. And that's pretty much most of the big threats now dealt with. Like the ISU 152s are probably the biggest thing that I'm going to have to deal with. Like maybe some T-34-85s, but that's about it. Because our opponents here are playing the new Gruppe Verdjunken. And there's also Saxons playing with the reserve 43rd. IL-4 coming in with the 500 kilogram bombs. Again, not ideal. It's on its own. You can see I'm purposefully right-clicking that so that these don't target anything else if another aircraft comes in. We're going to shoot that down nice and easy. Didn't manage to get its bombing strike off. Valky DT with those Molotovs. Going to be able to take out one of those units in the forest there. I think ideally what I should have done is had another leader squad that could follow in the Fallschirmjäger and the Latvian units into this forest so that I could maintain control over it, and then ultimately this flag. Here we go. The Panther A engaging the KV-1S and the T-34 at range. They can't even fire back. Previously, before the latest patch, these would be able to fire back at 2,000 meter range. Obviously the Panther would probably then be safe, but because they couldn't even fire back, the Panther A didn't even have to worry about showing side armor, so it was just sat there with its side armor facing at maximum range, popping away. Of course my opponent's going to back those off, he doesn't want them to die. But I'm able to just like brute push forwards, and this is something that's quite interesting about the gameplay. It kind of brings up a point that I feel like in general, due to the new patch, it's something that people ask me about a lot actually, is like, how do you feel about the game after like the range rework and stuff? Like in general, I think the gameplay feels like way more dynamic, because although in this case it may look unfair that he's got to move back with his KV-1S and T-34-76, like it's completely unrealistic that he would be able to engage a Panther at 2,000 meter range anyway, in my opinion. So having the Panther A like able to like bully them off at maximum range, I think is a good thing, and kind of like encourages the use of smoke and encourages the use of cover to get close. So you end up moving your troops a lot more tactically around areas. So like, say if I wanted to engage, like say if my opponent had Panthers out here and I'm wanting to push this flag, I would then, instead of driving out in the open, I would move my stuff up on the ridge and use this cover, this light cover, to engage at closer ranges. Now here I just couldn't see this because I don't have any recon with my Panther A, which is a big mistake, but either way it's not going to matter too much because they're not going to have the penetration to get through the front armor of the Panther. But even so, I don't even have to worry. I just have to reverse a little bit and I can continue to engage these without them able to shoot back at me. And if my opponent's not paying attention, then I just get an advantage there. And it's, I think this is, you know, like I said, it might look unfair, but I think it's more of a realistic game because of it. And ultimately, yeah, if he brought in some smoke, he could cover his tanks maybe in front and actually maybe try and charge the Panther. It would still probably be a bad idea because it's KV-1S and a T-34. But this, you kind of see what I mean. These tanks are worth a lot less than my Panther is. You know, it's 150 points versus 55 points. You got 3 T-34s smoked charging a Panther A. The Panther A is likely to die, and it's not even a bad trade. So these are things that I think people are currently overlooking in the game, and something that, oh, I got really lucky there. I didn't see that, I don't think, during the game. The ISU-152 bouncing the Panther at max range. To be honest, 165 mils of penetration against 130 mils of armor at maximum range probably only has like a 20-30% penetration chance, actually. I don't know if that's correct maths, honestly. I kind of just tend to guess based on experience. But in the end, the Panthers do get through the ISU-152 first, and we managed to continue the push there. So yeah, pretty you know, overwhelming victory on this right-hand side, but of course Stealth Job did end up dropping and the AI took over, and it's not terribly difficult to dismantle the AI, especially if like your opponent's already kind of lost on their side. But you can see like how the transition of the infantry division turned into an armored division. Like now everywhere you look, I've got infantry with armor. Now, this is not a good example of where to use armor, just so I'm going to put that out there. This is very overexposed and way too far forwards. But in general, like positions like this, where my infantry is like way far up, I can have the Panthers sit back and kind of cover them as they move forwards. And so, yeah, that's continued like all the way across the map. You can see we've got 4 Panther A's on the field, and we've got a couple of Panther D's. And I'm just constantly bringing in this like cheaper infantry to continue forward. So, yeah, I really enjoy this division, the 52nd Sicherungs. I think it's very fun to play. It even comes in with like some Panzergrenz later on instead of like Fallschirmjäger. I have managed to move up some AA further up just to protect these Panthers. Definitely something I'd recommend. It's often actually something that people forget. And so, quick tip, if you're making a very heavy push, a very fast push into the enemy, don't forget to move up your AA, because you will get bombed and you will get rocketed. It's something that people, you know, rely on to get rid of enemy pushes, you know, in a pinch. You know, people will go to their air tab if they're losing a lot of ground very fast. In this case, I kind of got away with the AI targeting this Focke-Wulf instead of this one, because otherwise that would have died. Flak 37s, though, still shooting this completely. Focke-Wulfs are pretty strong, though. And just like that, it's the end of the game. The Focke-Wulf, I think, would have probably got shot down if it was a second longer. But saved by the bell, 29 minutes. That is a minor victory. So in the end, we got the 3,995 kills to 1,230 losses. But that's not, like I said, I didn't really record this replay because I did well. Like, I more just felt like it was a game that really showed off how the 50-second Sicherungs works in a rather simple fashion. In the sense that you can push a load of infantry forwards first, but you've got to make sure you have like your decent AT support to back you up. And then like in phase B, you get your Panther Ds and your Panther As, and it's really, really cool. Like, I love the transition. It feels very fun. Like, it's a very unique division. It has a lot of unique units, like the Lithuanian units and so on. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with this deck for sure. In the end, these are the kills. Nothing too much to point out. I think I generally pointed out most of like the kills to look out for throughout the game. Palshimiega doing very well there against the Peliodox because they probably didn't get within the 100-meter range. But yeah, the way that AT guns are now used is like a lot more realistic. You've got to like ambush enemy tanks because you have reduced range compared to a lot of the stuff that wants to kill you. And especially when it comes to like the smaller AT guns now, like the 37s, a lot of people probably like remove them from their decks because they think, oh, they're useless now because they can't transport snipe from like 2,000-meter range. But ultimately, they are still just as important, but for the role of taking out half-tracks and light armored vehicles, which is, again, more realistic. So I think in general, like, the rework has made the game more realistic, but also way more dynamic. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun playing with it. I think this game had a lot of like demonstrations of like how the different units kind of interact now, especially when it came to like the Panther engaging the T-34s in the open. So again, that's kind of why I wanted to show it off. Anyway, I am not sure if I'm going to bring a gameplay of every single division. Like, I won't promise that from the new DLC, but I am going to try and do that. Obviously, some of you might be asking about the new campaign. I am planning to do that, but probably after a couple hot fixes to make sure that I don't have to play it on the special viewer the whole way through, which can get a bit tedious after a while. So I'm going to wait for any updates, and then, you know, after a couple updates, I will probably start the campaign on the latest campaign at least. I am looking to start maybe the Tiraspol Axis campaign before that. So I'll probably have 2 campaigns running on the channel at the same time, and then in between those, I've got SD League content coming up, and also, of course, more gameplays, hopefully. But again, that's something I can't really promise because I'm going to be swamped with the amount of content on the channel, like including Wargame, for example, as well. But anyway, this is a general update of the whole channel, as well as hopefully a very enjoyable 50-second Sicherungs gameplay. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.